Hello everybody, welcome back to another video. I'm hoping you guys are all having a fantastic day. So in today's video, as you can tell by the title, we will be talking about a snowstorm, a winter storm that will be bringing quite a bit of heavy snow across a widespread of just across a widespread area. It already did drop quite a bit of snow across Oklahoma, Kansas, Texas, into portions of New Mexico, into Missouri, Arkansas, and it's snowing currently. But this thing will be intensifying as it rolls up the northeast coast. And I'll also be briefly talking about the pattern kind of that follows this this system. So let's start getting talking about this without further ado, and let me first show you the radar. So this is what I use just to show you nothing too fancy, just a broad your classic radar. Notice that across the south, where this system is close to the Gulf of Mexico, or where I guess the areas close to the Gulf of Mexico are getting a lot of rain from this system. You can see there's some pretty nasty thunderstorms just offshore, but some of them are making their way into cities like New Orleans, Lafayette, and other areas like Lake Charles, Beaumont. It was earlier across portions of Texas, including cities like Houston, got some pretty nasty showers and storms. So expect this to continue. Expect a decently heavy rain event for the south here. There could also be some pockets of severe weather that we have to watch for. Notice further up north, this is mainly a snow event. Kansas City, Wichita, Joplin, Fayetteville. I don't really know how to pronounce that. Tulsa, Fort Smith. You can see all of you were kind of seeing a rain-snow mix, but now as the sun is completely set and we have those temperatures rolling in from the north, we're seeing a transition over to snow. Some areas like Oklahoma City were forecasted to get 1 to 2 inches. I'm sure most likely you did not, because looking at this radar, the rain was pretty stubborn there, but there were locations just west of you that certainly did get quite a bit across Kansas as well, into portions of the panhandle of Texas. And again, as this thing rolls up, you can see cities like Kansas City will be picking up some decent snow out of this. You can see it's pretty much all snow now for a good portion of the suburbs. Just maybe the metro itself was probably going to convert in the next few hours to pretty much an all snow event. Notice that as I put this towards the current time frame, we see this moving in on cities like St. Louis, into Des Moines, Iowa. So the good thing is that a lot of these cities will be done with this by the time the morning commute is here, right? So that's a good thing. But further north, it will spread, and Minneapolis, Des Moines will still be in this. Chicago, Indianapolis, Detroit, large cities, large metros, you will be stuck with this throughout most of the day tomorrow. So let's start tracking this thing out and showing you what to expect. Before we actually do that though, I want to show you the Weather Ready Nation map. So this is what the current weather advisories look like. You can see there's a wide swath from Illinois, Iowa, Missouri, Kansas, pretty much mimicking where that snow will be falling and the impacts will be greatest. But there will be snow further north as well, except that it just isn't heavy enough to warrant a winter weather advisory. But some special weather statements are issued. You can see right here for central Indiana. There's going to be a rain-snow mix, but it's just going to be too warm to produce any meaningful snow accumulation. So, definitely still slushy, especially for the early morning part of the commute. But later on, it quiets down. So, just turning to all rain. Notice across the northeast coast, we also, not really the coast, in the interior northeast, we have a nice swath from North Carolina into Virginia, West Virginia, into Maryland, into Pennsylvania, New York, Boston, Massachusetts. I don't know why I said Boston. Massachusetts, Connecticut, New Jersey, into Vermont and New Hampshire, we have some advisories. And notice right off the lakes behind this system, once the cold weather turns, we have some winter storm watches indicating some, again, heavy lake effect. And I would not be surprised to see some pretty significant snow for these areas, maybe in the, in the works of several feet. So yeah, that's going to be something I'll talk about in a different video. But let's start tracking this out. So again, right now the snow side of this system is centered across Missouri into portions of Kansas, into Oklahoma. It's exiting those areas. And actually, before I get too far ahead of myself, I want to show you the snowfall amounts that were reported across these areas. Notice across Wichita, just east of it, and Eureka, we have ½ an inch right now. Again, streets wet but slick. So again, that's the thing with a lot of this, that the snow might be occurring across marginally kind of 32, 33 degrees. Areas, and if it's falling lightly enough, it will just keep the roads wet, but if it falls heavily enough, it could definitely, lead to slush and even maybe just some straight up accumulations. But notice a wide swath of just shy of 5 inches, even some 5-inch reports you can see like right there. And yeah, the panhandle of Texas, Oklahoma, into New Mexico got this, into Oklahoma itself. Again, Oklahoma City wasn't so lucky with that snow if you were hoping for it. Arkansas, 2 inches into Fayetteville right there, 7/10 of an inch. And this will be spreading towards the north with these accumulations, and again, eventually into the northeast. So let's start tracking this as I was going to at this point 30 times. All right, so let's track this. So notice again, the rain across the south, across Louisiana, will be moving into New Orleans, probably peaking at around 11 to 12 a.m. time frame tonight. Notice though, it's pretty progressive, right? So it's not stationary, so there will be heavy rain, but once it's out of here, allowing things to dry up. Notice again, Kansas City, you'll be transitioning to all snow if you haven't already at this time. Again, 1 a.m., 2 a.m., 3 a.m., exiting your area just before the commute, so any, snow that's still lingering or on the roads will be plowed up. But notice into Chicago, central Illinois, central Iowa, Des Moines, you're still in on this. Wisconsin, Milwaukee, Madison, getting even into Minneapolis. Again, Detroit potentially getting some snow, maybe just a bit less according to this model. And again, it's going to be moving in pretty quickly. It's going to be falling pretty lightly, but I want to pay special note to the areas just near the lakes. As the winds, you can see, are going to be coming off from the south and west, we will begin to see some enhancements, some darker pockets. And I'm not sure if you could pick them up here. I can see them, but that's because I'm the one that's directing this, and I could probably have higher resolution than what you have by the time I record this and upload this. But do note that we're going to have these little pockets right there. You can see it pretty clearly of snow that could be producing heavier snowfall rates. So that's something to watch for. Notice this eventually spreads more into Michigan. We have some precipitation, maybe, again, in the form of rain across Indiana, Ohio. But yeah, this is definitely going to be light snow. It's not going to be heavy. But as we push into the overnight hours, the areas across the coast, so, large metros still, Green Bay, maybe Milwaukee, especially Chicago is the main worry here, the main concern. So if you're, from the Chicago area watching this, and I do know I have viewers from that area, that's where I'm from, notice that there will be, as these winds, again, initially from the south and west, and then start converting towards from the north and east, it sets up the winds to bring any lake effect onto the Illinois shore. Again, the air will be pretty cold, the waters will be pretty warm, so the lake effect parameters are actually pretty substantial. It's just that the temperatures for especially the immediate coastline will be marginal up to where maybe even rain falls, because of, again, we have just very strong winds pushing warm air on. But further inland, where we see more of that cold air being stubborn, we could see some 1 to 2 even inch snowfall rates, and you can see that the models really do show that. So I would not be surprised if there are going to be some pockets of up to 6 inches across these areas, maybe into maybe not the Chicago metro itself, but the suburbs, and that goes to Milwaukee as well. So if you live across those areas, don't be surprised if that does end up occurring. The National Weather Service was saying that they're forecasting right now 2 to 5 inches for these areas, but in their little forecast discussion, they acknowledge that those forecast amounts may be way too low, and that's the exact words they used, way too low. So even if 5 inches fell, that'd be already a lot, let alone whatever amount they think might, which there were indications that it could be up until close to 10 inches. I don't think that will occur, but you could see models like the HER model definitely shows those pink colors indicating 6 inches plus. Again, probably too aggressive, though nonetheless, definitely something we will have to watch for and stay, I guess, a bit wary for across the coastlines here. And notice that as we push this into the Tuesday or into Wednesday time frame, this thing, the moisture from the rain across the south makes its way up towards the northeast, and this is where we encounter some cooler air across Pennsylvania, maybe Pittsburgh, initially seeing some snow, a burst of snow. Some areas towards the south especially, getting some snow at first, but then converting towards rain. Again, coastal areas, New York City and whatnot, you're going to be staying mainly in the rain for this, so that's a bit unfortunate if you want snow, but notice, yeah, there could be quite a bit of that rain. But further north, that snow could get actually pretty heavy at times across Massachusetts, New York, Vermont, New Hampshire, and you can see the furthest I can take you out is 29 hours out because this model is still loading. It's the freshest data I can give you. And let's take a look at some of the total snowfall that could fall through tomorrow in the afternoon. So 11 p.m. Notice 4 or 5 inches plus, especially across the elevated areas across Pennsylvania, maybe even some 6-inch amounts. I would not be surprised. Again, now let's take a look at a different model, a model that goes a bit further out. Let's take a look at the FV3 high res. Let's take a look at the older model one. It goes a bit further out. The data is a bit older, unfortunately, but it allows us to see, past the 26 hours that the HER is currently showing. And again, you can see there it is. It shows that initial burst of snow. It shows some rain getting in, and then maybe additional heavy band of snow towards Vermont, New Hampshire. This is just one model interpretation. I'm not sure this is the most accurate one. I would probably prefer even the NAM 3KM towards this, but this one on the other hand may overperform this event. But let's see. So again, there's that snow you can see spreading into Pennsylvania, New York, upstate New York, coastal areas seeing mainly rain, if not just all rain. And then notice that there's going to be a brief period of where this system just kind of, stagnates around 1 a.m., 2 a.m., wee morning hours of Wednesday. But then it starts intensifying, and that could bring some additional heavy amounts into potentially Maine. A lot of my Canadian viewers, Quebec, Montreal, Toronto, you could be picking up a bit of snow from this as well. And notice this thing's intensifying here pretty rapidly, 995, 996, and it goes away. But yes, it will be bringing quite a bit of snow, especially towards the extreme northern areas of the United States and southern Canada. And I can show you that because look, there's already winter storm watches issued for the northern kind of half of Pennsylvania or Maine, and the amounts obviously here would be pretty significant: 3 to 5, 3 to 7, and probably a few more inches in additional through Thursday. And yeah, that does include areas on the other side of the border as well. As I did mention, there is going to be quite a bit of a lake effect fetch following the systems moving away. So again, there's that system on a GFS model. Again, you can see a lot of the models. This is what it looks like tomorrow. So really, for the most part, the Midwest is done with this by the Wednesday commute. Tuesday, it could still be snowing across some areas, other than areas by the lakes, including areas like Chicago, Milwaukee, maybe Detroit, seeing some lake effect showers and whatnot into Wednesday. But it's mainly of a northeast story at this point. And notice that this thing does intensify, like the HER model shows, produces quite a bit of snow here. Again, not for the coastal areas, but further inland, as this thing intensifies, could be bringing quite a bit of snow. And again, look, there's a really cold air mass that follows this system, unseasonably record-breaking, pretty much cold for this time of the year, and that makes these fetches, especially off Lake Erie and Lake Ontario, very impressive, and could be sustained for a few days. So there could be some pretty legendary lake effect amounts that occur there. I wouldn't say record-breaking, but definitely some that could go down into the books as a heavy event. So if you take a look at the total snowfall, obviously predicting lake effect is kind of a nightmare. But if you look at the northeast, you can see some models show well north of even 40 inches. Is that going to happen? Well, I don't really know. 40 inches is obviously quite a number to forecast, but I would say at least a foot to 2 feet of snow is a possibility of the lakes of Erie and Ontario. I mean, goodness, they already have winter storm watches, so the National Weather Service is confident in this thing occurring for how far this thing's out. I mean, if you look at cities like Buffalo, this is Thursday night, Friday. This is still like that system snow, and this is when that lake effect could begin. So yeah, it's a bit far out, but the confidence is there, and there you go, 1 to 2 feet or more. So definitely could be a legendary lake effect event for those folks that kind of live for that in those areas. So that is something to note. And yeah, once this system does move away, you can see like the model, the European, again, I didn't show you this one yet, but it's pretty much identical to what the other models show, showing that system snow initially. There's that system, again, at 1,013 millibars, not strong, but as it rides up the northeast coast, it begins deepening, it begins shedding those millibars, and you can see 997 by the time it's kind of in that main bay, Bay of Maine, I don't know, it probably has an actual name right there. But notice that as this thing pulls away, yeah, it's going to be bringing quite a bit of heavy snow, especially for the Canadian cities of Quebec and obviously into Nova Scotia, but more inland, St. John, whatnot, you won't really be seeing snow out of that. It's just too far up the coast. But again, just like the GFS, the European shows some pretty ridiculous lake effect snow fetches following this, especially again off Michigan, Superior, Huron. You will be seeing snow. But it's just the orientation of the lakes that Erie and Ontario have with the westerly winds that will support those incredible lake effect fetches. Not as robust for Michigan, Superior, and whatnot. Still, you could get 6 to 12 inches there, just not feet of snow. Which, I mean, you can see days after that system's gone. This upcoming Saturday, and that system is still, that snow is still pounding. So that is definitely something to be be watching for. Now, as we put this forward, what we do see is a warming pattern. So you can see the high pressure that initially brings in all this cold air from the north orients itself and sets itself up across the southeastern United States. This starts pumping in warm air from the south. So yes, that means that, all the snow that's going to fall is going to melt most likely across the Midwest and the south and the northeast. And especially more concerningly, if that heavy snow does materialize across the Great Lakes, that could, off the lake effect snow belts, that could lead to some pretty drastic flooding concerns and issues. So that is definitely something we will have to watch for and be prepared for. Obviously, there will be probably some flooding, but the thing is that it could be warm for a few days without major rain or anything like that, so that is good news. But notice we have a system that moves into California, and you know what that means. That's when we could get some potential for some bigger systems. The system we're dealing with right now, the snowstorm, it's not massive. It's going to be big, though, or not as big as, again, some of these ones. That you can see the European starts showing, again, a lot of rain out in the long range, and let me show you some of the, because this is how far the European goes, but let me show you what the GFS starts showing across the long range. It goes a bit further out than the European, and it starts showing some pretty nasty storms, ones that could be bringing quite a bit of heavy snow and rain and just a lot of impacts. So again, there's that system. Again, not that big of a system. Definitely something to watch for, though. And notice again that lake effect. Really, really interesting to see what those amounts will be. And those reinforcing shots and clippers and whatnot could extend that lake effect for well into pretty much a week out from today. Notice, though, we do see that warming trend, and look, there's that system, which surprisingly both the European and the GFS show around that Thanksgiving time frame. So this could be a nightmare for the forecasting, or sorry, for all the travel that goes on. I think Thanksgiving's the most traveled day, even beats Christmas. So that is definitely going to be something we'll have to watch for. If a system like this were to materialize, that would be kind of a nightmare. Look at all that snow across Michigan, Canada, into the northeast, into all that rain across the south, and eventually that cold air that swoops through. And then we see a bit of a warming trend, but potentially then another system after a little trough comes through. So yeah, a lot of interesting details and things we'll have to watch for. And just to show you a few other model runs from this morning, you can see that the morning one from 6Z showed, let's go back to around the 150-hour timeline where this snow, or where this pattern starts breaking. Again, there's that first system, which again, now it shows kind of differently. But look, there's another one that shows a lot more heavier snow across the Midwest into the Northeast. So that's also around that Thanksgiving-ish time frame. So, not good. But and then later on, also more cold, more snow, and that's the thing, that the cold air, while right here we might see a thaw, it won't be a legendary breaking thaw that will last for weeks. A few days of warmth followed by probably another cold front or another system that brings in some chilly air. So yeah, an active pattern to say the least. So we'll have to keep an eye on that stuff for sure. And yeah, that's basically it, guys. Hopefully you got updates. Obviously, stay tuned to your local National Weather Service for updates, especially if you live across the those lake effect belts. I just sometimes wish that I could live across those areas. Obviously, for the daily commuters and whatnot, this is a nightmare. But sometimes just have like a little outpost and see all the snow that could fall during these heavy lake effect snow events. I mean, some of that snow you guys can get is ridiculous. But when we start talking about an event like this one that could be occurring, it starts getting serious. So hopefully we don't see anything that's like 20. I believe 13 was a massive event in November there. All right. Thank you guys so much for watching. I'll catch you all in the next episode. See ya. Bye.